What if Tony Stark and the Avengers accidentally created Doctor Doom? Not via machines or secret plans, but through sacrifice, their choice in Endgame, the time heist, and everything they thought was right. And what if, without meaning to, unwittingly, the man who saved the world with a snap of his fingers forged the Avengers' greatest enemy? Imagine an alternate version of Tony who discovers a truth that's too big, too dark, a truth he was never meant to see, a truth that breaks him and changes him. And what if this Doctor Doom, the one we're going to see in the Fantastic Four and Avengers Doomsday, was actually him? But be careful, this Tony who becomes Doom, we know him well, and I think we've already seen him before. Hi everyone, and welcome to House and Marvel for a new video. Today we're going to ask the following question. By believing they were saving the multiverse in Endgame, did the Avengers actually plant the seeds of their own future destruction? Spoiler alert, of course, we're going to talk about Endgame, Loki, the TVA, the concept of variance, Deadpool and Wolverine, and obviously everything we already know about Avengers Doomsday. Get your coffee ready and make yourself comfortable. I'm Julian, and you're watching House of Marvel. Okay, my theory is very simple. The Doom we'll see in Avengers Doomsday is a variant of Tony Stark, a Tony who saw what he wasn't supposed to see and was abandoned by his timeline. And I'm going to prove to you that it's possible, that it perfectly explains Robert Downey Jr.'s return, that it justifies the darkness of the character, and that it could completely change the way we see the Avengers themselves. Back to Avengers Endgame, 2012, New York. Remember, the Avengers go back in time to retrieve the Tesseract, the Space Stone. We all know about the elevator mishap, Loki escaping, and the apparent failure of that mission. Just to remind you, the Stark Tower in 2012 was one of the main intelligence hubs for S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers, who were just coming together. This is where all the Tesseract data, security logs, Jarvis's information, the future Ultron project files, conversations with Phil Coulson, internal surveillance footage, and secrets yet to be revealed all come together. In short, absolutely everything. It's also where everything's recorded and archived. As the TVA explains to us, when some of the Avengers travel back in time to the moment of the battle in New York, a new branch of reality forms from that point in time. I'm going to call it 616B. So in 2012, at the same time and in the same place, we have Steve and Steve B, Hulk and Hulk B, Scott and Scott B, and of course Tony and Tony B. Now let's imagine that once the Avengers time heist is complete, they return to their present on Earth 616 in Endgame. But what about the other Tony Stark, the one from 2012? Let's imagine he goes into the surveillance room of his tower to access the security footage. At first, everything seems normal until he comes across a really strange sequence. In fact, he sees 2 Iron Men and 2 Captain Americas. A scene that makes no sense at all, like 2 Tonys, 2 Steves in the same tower at the same time. That Tony then realizes that something strange is going on. He sees his double stealing the Tesseract, fighting, improvising. He sees Steve say, "Hail Hydra," in the elevator. He realizes that this isn't an illusion, not a glitch, but that this situation is actually real. And from that moment, a doubt sets in, and once the doubt fades, this idea turns into a real obsession. He starts searching, questioning, hunting for cracks, and this curiosity creates a variation. A Tony who no longer follows the script, who searches instead of forgetting, who realizes he's at the center of a time anomaly and that he's been a pawn in a much bigger plan. So this could create a nexus event and produce a new branch that the TVA would have to erase. As a reminder, a nexus event in the MCU is a moment when an action has the potential to significantly alter the course of time in a reality, creating an unstable timeline branch. In other words, it's a key point or a decision, a gesture or a change that could create a new branch of the same reality. If this branch isn't pruned, it can lead to an uncontrollable divergence of the multiverse. In Loki, the TVA hunts down these nexus events to prevent the proliferation of alternate realities. The TVA, under the control of He Who Remains, was tasked with pruning these branches before they got out of hand and triggered a new multiversal war. Even though the TVA exists outside of time at that point, it's still under the control of He Who Remains and systematically prunes unauthorized branches of the multiverse. And now you're going to say, "Impossible, Julian, that timeline was definitely pruned. Loki escaped from it, and we know that at the time, every branch was supposed to be purged by the TVA." And that's an excellent point. And here we're touching on the sensitive issue that could, at first glance, weaken my theory if we don't dig a little deeper. In Loki Episode 1, the TVA explains that unauthorized timeline branches are immediately pruned. This timeline, created by the Avengers time heist when Loki escapes with the Tesseract, is one of those branches. This seems problematic initially as the TVA arrives and prunes that timeline. So that world is wiped out. But here's why the theory doesn't fall apart, and actually why I think it gets even more interesting because of this. First of all, we now know that the TVA is clearly not infallible and even less legitimate. We find out in Loki that the TVA is just a tool serving He Who Remains, and he manipulates the flow of time to prevent the emergence of Kang variants, but not necessarily Doctor Doom variants. So if Doom is seen as a counterforce to the Council of Kangs, it's possible that He Who Remains intentionally allows the 616-B timeline, the one where the Endgame Avengers show up, to exist as a kind of backup. Because, just to remind you, He Who Remains wants the destruction of Kang variants. Even if we assume that this 2012 timeline really does get pruned by the TVA, this Tony variant, the one who realizes something's going on behind his back, could escape beforehand. If this Tony variant discovered the truth before the TVA intervened, he could finish developing some kind of multiversal jump technology, or even escape into the quantum realm like Scott Lang. Tony created his time travel tech in Endgame in a very short amount of time, so we can think that's totally plausible. If Tony escapes, there are two theories. The first is that he gets pruned from his reality and ends up taking control of the void. But the theory I find most interesting is that he escapes into the quantum realm. He would then realize that the Endgame Avengers traveled to 2012 to a quantum tunnel. But why is that believable? Because in the current MCU, the quantum realm is one of the only places that escapes the TVA's control. That's shown explicitly in Quantumania. Kang was exiled there by the Council of Kangs since the TVA can't intervene. Time doesn't work normally there. We're literally outside the time flow monitored by the TVA. So if this Tony variant knew he was hunted by the TVA, and after discovering the truth in Stark Tower he'd figure it out, the quantum realm would be his best refuge. As we know, in the quantum realm, time is distorted and fragmented. During the blip, Scott Lang gets stuck in the quantum realm. He spends 5 hours there while 5 years pass in reality. Tony could potentially spend years there, while only a few hours go by in the main timelines. So what would a Tony Stark trapped for years in a prison outside of time do? Obviously, he would build, he would learn, he would evolve, and he would develop an obsession, understanding the multiverse, understanding the TVA, understanding why his world and his loved ones were erased. We can imagine that he would eventually merge his knowledge of the quantum realm with Stark Industries technology, multiverse research, and traces of magic he collected, since in the quantum realm, primitive forms of magic are visible, as seen in Quantumania. He would build his first Doom armor, of course, an armor not only designed to survive in an unstable environment, but above all, an armor capable of traveling between realities and fighting against the TVA itself. As a result, his timeline is destroyed, but he survives and wanders between realities, between isolated, forgotten, and broken time, becoming Doctor Doom. But that's not all. The return of the 2012 Avengers already creates a first timeline branch that I call 616-Biz. But when Tony Biss discovers this anomaly, the doubles of himself and Steve, the theft of the Tesseract, the Avengers time travel, it could trigger a second Nexus event. As a result, the TVA, of course, might purge the first branch, the one from Loki's escape, but not the second, which was created when Tony became aware. And it's the second branch that could survive, allowing Tony Biss to keep existing in a new timeline without anyone noticing. Alternatively, Marvel reveals the MCU since 2008 is already a modified timeline. That the Doom Tony in Doomsday is from the original MCU, erased by He Who Remains, and our universe, 616, is an idealized lie to prevent his existence. Here, we're diving straight into pure Hickman style, and Marvel Studios loves this kind of meta twist. So the TVA's pruning doesn't disprove my theory. In fact, I think it makes it even more tragic. Because if Doom survives the erasure of his timeline, it means he has nothing left to lose. If this theory is true, then everything we thought we knew is a lie. Tony Stark didn't save the multiverse with the Avengers. He doomed it by going too far, by uncovering too much, by forcing a forbidden timeline. He awakened something, someone, and that someone is himself, but broken, corrupted, transformed into Tony Stark, who saw the truth and realized the Avengers weren't saviors, but tools in a greater scheme, mere pawns. In Avengers Doomsday, this Doom returns, neither generic villain nor conqueror, but a mirror, as discussed, a dark reflection of Tony Stark, the inversion of Tony's ideals. Now we see why Robert Downey Jr. is returned. Not to resurrect Iron Man, but to bury him. The Doom Tony theory isn't just exciting to me, it's incredibly coherent, deep, and at the same time tragic. It connects Endgame to Loki, gives meaning to Robert Downey Jr.'s return, justifies the MCU's meta shift, and above all, raises a real question. Did our heroes actually make the right choices during Endgame's time heist? What if their greatest act of bravery was actually their biggest mistake? If Doom comes from Tony Stark, then the multiverse won't be destroyed by a tyrant, but by a consequence, the consequence of trying too hard to do the right thing. Now it's your turn to give me your opinion. Did the Avengers unwittingly create the multiverse's greatest enemy? Could Doom be the mirror image of the ultimate Avenger? Let me know in the comments and send me your theories. I love reading and debating them. And as always, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Also, to make sure you don't miss my next videos, subscribe and turn on notifications. That is all for today. We look forward to seeing you next time on House of Marvel.